Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I'm coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. And in today's video, we're going to continue on with my O Group project updates. And in my most recent work that I've done for my O Group project, I finished a bunch of Fallschirmjägers. And I'm going to show them off to you. Basically, just it's going to be like a gallery of finished miniatures for my O Group armies, because I'm going to have a number of different battalions made, like British para and British infantry, and American para, American infantry, German para, German grenadiers, German SS. I'm not sure if I'm going to jump into the whole Russian East Front, but I probably will. But let's take a look. This is a Boeta base. They make a bunch of scenic bases, which this is the same size as a large Flames of War base. I'm using that to represent the battalion headquarters, and there's enough room in the courtyard there to place a die to represent your battalion orders. All right, let's move on to the next unit. All right, now what we got here is one of my companies, with the company commander, the 3 platoons, and the 3 combat patrols. I've made an adjustment to the way or the base size for my company commanders. I've decided to switch to a 30 millimeter disc instead of the 1.5 inch discs, because these are 50 mil or 2 inch, and then I was putting my company commanders on 1.5 inch, and they were it didn't look right. It looked like they were too big. The base was way too big for what it was supposed to represent. So I shrunk it down to 30 millimeter, which is the same as these guys. These guys are 30 millimeters wide. And now each of my companies have a different flock. I flocked each company differently. Instead of putting a color coded ring around the bases, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that in the future, but so far so good. I like the way it looks. Yeah, I just for all my companies, I tried to put a number of machine gunners in there. So we got some machine gunners shooting over shoulders. We got prone machine gunners, another shoulder. We've got a guy carrying a machine gun under his arm. I also tried to put submachine gunners throughout, mainly to represent the NCOs. And occasionally you'll see the FG-42. My armies, or my Fallschirmjäger group, was based on the Flames of War Fallschirmjäger Company, and it had almost enough figures to do the entire battalion and combat patrols. Well, it did actually. It had enough. It actually had a few extras. And it included a very large number of Panzerfausts. And so I enter, and look at this guy right there. I'm sorry, this guy right there. A couple of them came out of a couple of other sets because I did a mortar set and I did a machine gun set, and I basically just put them all together and cherry picked and put them out there the way, just based them up the way I wanted. All right, next company or whatever I've got. All right, now this is my second company or another company. And you'll notice that the first unit was a static grass, and this one has a light green ground scatter on the base. So it's a slightly different texture, and you can, like a sawdust where the other one was static grass, and so you can identify which company is which. You'll notice that the pants and the helmets are, well, not all the helmets. Only the ones that I did in field blue, I went back over after I did the wash because I noticed that once I did the wash, the field blue turned into like this really dark gray after the wash. And I didn't want that look. I wanted it to be field blue. I wanted it, so I went back over it with field blue, but I felt like it still wasn't blue enough on the table. On the figure, it looked good up close. If I pulled it up close and everything and looked at it, it looked fine. But on the table, it wasn't stark enough. I wanted the blue for the Fallschirmjägers, the Luftwaffe. I wanted it to be very blue. I wanted it to be a distinct, I wanted it to stand out. So I went back over the helmets with something called French grayish blue. And I was only going to do it as kind of a highlight, and I heavily watered it down so it would be almost a little transparent. And I put it on their helmets, and it looked really good. I was like, oh wow, this is like exactly what I'm looking for. And then I went back and just highlighted the pants. I didn't repaint the pants. I basically just put highlights on the folds of the fabric, etc., with the French bluish gray. And I'm not sure if you guys like that look, but I really do like the Luftwaffe Fallschirmjäger look, mainly because I want my battalions to be distinct. I want them to look different. I don't want these guys to just look like grenadiers at arm's length, All right, let me show you the next battalion. All right, guys, I think I said next battalion when I meant next company. Okay, now these guys are based a little bit different as well. This is a static grass. This is the static grass that I normally use, which is my spring meadow. It's a 2.5 millimeter instead of the 2 millimeter from the Stone Mountain one that you saw first. So what I'll do is when I get all these companies displayed, I'll put a couple of the figures side by side so you'll see the difference in the static grass. And I did use a different shade of the primary tufts on the combat patrols. I used that light green instead of the darker green. What I tried to do is, and the company commander has the light green on there, so it identifies those combat patrols and which company they come from. Now you'll not only notice the blue helmets, but some of the Fallschirmjägers didn't like the blue or the green helmet, so they would paint them with a like a, a grayish or a greenish uh, tan yellow color, like this guy right there. Um, and So I use the color middle stone for that. You got their jump smocks on, you know, fastened around their thighs. Some of them have them open. Some are wearing smocks that just hang down. Variety. There's a variety of different styles here. Now, I don't think there was enough FG42s. There's just a smattering, like maybe a dozen out of all the figures. Also, you'll notice that their load bearing equipment, their shoulder straps that hold their ammo pouches and things like this, and their belts, I painted them with a dark brown, a very dark brown, actually. Almost looks a little black, but actually it's dark brown. And I learned something reading my Fallschirmjäger in Action book that the Luftwaffe used brown leather where the Wehrmacht or the main army used black straps. So there was actually a distinction between the two. And also their uniforms, instead of field gray, they were field blue. All right, let's start digging into. No, I do have one. I did actually do a fourth company, but it was kind of an afterthought because I had enough extra figures. I made an engineer company. Let's show that one off. All right, so I went ahead and pulled my extra figures, and I, the Fallschirmjäger company box includes a number of flamethrowers on their sprues. So I thought it would be an opportune time to use flamethrowers in my on an engineer stand. So the rest of these figures are just straight off of the Fallschirmjäger company. I do have some engineer models, but they are SS engineers. And so when I go ahead and do my SS battalion, I'm also going to be doing an engineer battalion for them as well. But these are like engineers with flamethrowers. Now you'll only see like 2 flamethrowers per platoon for a total of 6. I think because it came with 8 flamethrowers. It was like a weird number. If it was 9, I would have done one for every base. But I felt like I might need engineers that don't have flamethrowers. Not every base might have a flamethrower, that kind of stuff. So I kind of just intermixed, switched them around, etc. Also, the flock on these bases is a ground scatter as well, but it was my deep green or dark green ground scatter. So these engineers have a definite dark look to them because of the way the ground scatter lays. Now on the pre-flock of any base throughout the entire Fallschirmjägers, I did scatter a few talus rocks. They're the very small brown talus. You might notice a few of them on the, like on this one, you'll notice a bunch of rocks right there. But every base has a few of them. It was just something to liven up the base. And I thought about changing the texture paste color from medium brown or earth brown to maybe a dark brown or a light brown, light earth or something. But I decided no, I'm going to stick with my favorite, which is the medium brown. And I did, as you can see, there's quite a few um, clump foliage chunks on these bases. I wanted there to be a little bit of vegetation on the bases. Now, there's not always uh, big pieces, and there's not always pieces in between the figures, but I wanted it to just, um, yeah, give the base a little bit of a life. All right, now we're going to be going on into my support elements next. So let's check those out. Okay, and like I said earlier, I did add a mortar pack. The mortar pack came with 4 120 millimeter mortars, but it also came with these 4 short 80 millimeter mortars, which was a Fallschirmjäger staple there. And I've decided to mount these on regular support bases because I'm going to use them on table. The 80 millimeter mortars are going to be, they're not going to be battalion mortars. They're going to, if I need to represent a battalion mortar, I'll use 1 or 2 of the 120s. Or if I need to represent actual 120 fire missions, then in that case, I'll put some other mortar, grenadier mortar, or something like that on the table to represent them. But you're never going to have 4 120 fire missions. You're only going to have, well, unless the Fallschirmjägers are on the attack, but I suspect they're going to always be on the defense because I'm designing them for Normandy. So they should have 2 fire missions. But if in the rules of the 120, if you exchange all your fire missions for 120 fire missions, you actually get a bonus of an extra fire mission. So you could get 3. So I don't know if I'm going to need a 4th mortar or if I'm going to need maybe sell it or what. I'm not sure. But because the pack came with all 4, I went ahead and put them all together. Same thing with these mortars. I probably won't need more than maybe 2 or 3. And I'm going to use them very similarly to the way the Americans use their 60 millimeter mortars. Yeah, so they'll be used as like a support element you can attach to your units or fire separately as an independent on the table. A lot like the American 60 millimeter mortars. All right, now here's some of our support attachments. Well, we do have an FO right here. We've got the Pupchin anti-tank. I think it fires rockets, actually, a lot like a Panzerschreck. But here's our Panzerschreck teams. And then I did 4 medium machine gun teams. Now, these are all mounted in a way. My support attachments, I've noticed that to differentiate them, I've mounted them lengthwise down their bases. It lets you kind of identify that they are a support element. Plus, the machine guns and the Panzer Shreks and whatever other attachments I might have, they fit pretty good like that, lengthwise. I also try to, any support attachment, I try to make them only 2 figures as opposed to all my combat platoons sections have 3 figures on them. So it kind of also kind of identifies them as a team that's attached, not not like a full squad. All right, now let's get into the anti-tank guns. All right, now this is going to be the final group. I did 2 of each of the anti-tank guns. So we've got the 37s over here, and I decided to go ahead and make them with the little steel grenade that they can shoot, because in O group, your 37 millimeter anti-tank guns have 2 shots of the steel grenade. So I said, why not? Yeah, let's do it, because I haven't done it in the past. I've always done just anti-tank guns, so I thought it would be it'd be unique to my Fallschirmjägers. These guys here are the Pack 40s, the 75 millimeters. The guns themselves are actually ancient models that I've had for, I don't know, over 20 years, I think. I still have a couple more. They're from the Old Glory Command Decision line, and they have a couple of, I think I had like 2 guns remaining that I'm using right here, and then 2 additional ones where the carriage was actually in the tow position. I debated on whether or not to use those, but no need. Let's go ahead and use these guys. And then I also did the 50, the Pack 38. And almost every one of these crew members, almost, there's a couple of crew that are not, like this guy, but almost all of them are forged in battle gun crews from their heavy weapons package. And I just, having seen what they look like, I said, oh, I can use those for anti-tank guns. So I basically pulled out my sprues of anti-tank guns that I had available and put them together. And then I found my 2 Pack 40 anti-tank guns. Those were metal from Old Glory. And I said, okay, now we've got the crew. But I think there's 2 figures. I think it's this guy and this guy are from the Flames of War sets, and the rest are all forged in battle. Now, you'll also notice that each series of anti-tank gun is flocked differently. We've got our what do they call it? Ground scatter on this guy, right? And then we've got our this is the Stone Mountain static, which is a very small 2 millimeter static. And then on these guys, I've got my 2.5 Nock Spring Meadow. I like the Stone Mountain because it's nice and small and easy to use, but it's a little pricey. But I almost always use my my Nock because it's a little bit longer. It gives it a little bit more fuzz look, a little bit more grassy, not manicured grass like these guys. It gives it a little bit more wild, and then the ground scatter is actually very easy to control. It doesn't blow around, or it doesn't have any static. It's just easy to use, and it's micro scatter. It's not just ground scatter, but it does have a different look to it. It's whatever you think you like. I think this is my favorite block right here. And I didn't bother pulling out any transport vehicles or anything like that because they're basically generic German transport vehicles. I could grab any of my trucks or any of my tractors or whatever and use. Uh, and you've already seen quite a few of those. I did order a number. Now, this is part of my O Group update. Um, as you know, I ordered a number of buildings from Battle Scale. I ordered like 15 buildings. I received 14. I already have a ton of buildings. And now with these Battle Scale, there's 14 buildings from Battle Scale. I also have uh, an S ton of them. So I can make urban environments and built up areas and stuff like that. But I've been basically just putting it off, waiting for that 15th building to show up, and it hasn't showed up. So I'm going to have to contact Battle Scale because they've been sending me these emails that ask me to review my last purchase, and I don't want to fill it out negatively. I'm going to give them a chance because when I emailed him, he said he was going to send me that 15th building, and that was a while ago. I think it was at least maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I'm going to have to re-email him and then let him know that I'm getting these surveys, and I don't want to fill them out until I give him an opportunity to make it right. You know what I mean? Um, am I going to cry over spilled milk? One building? Not really. But I did pay for it. So if he refunds me for that one building, I'll be okay with that. Or if he actually sends me that building, I'll be okay. I'll be even better. Uh, but the next thing I'm going to do for O Group is build terrain. I don't need a whole lot of terrain because I have roads, I have fields, and I have trees, but I just don't have them. I've got a ton of hedges, but the hedges are all cultivated hedges. I need some random wild hedges made, and I need some walls. I have like almost zero walls. I've got some fences, but I want to build all those linear obstacles, and I want to get a second doormat so I can make some crop fields. I have one already, and I cut it up, which I think I'm gonna cut it up for Meg and other games. But I'm going to cut it up again for some crop fields for O Group, as well as maybe getting a second one to do that. Um, yeah, so basically, there's just a lot of little pieces of terrain that I just want to complement the terrain that I already have built. And so that's going to be the next part of the project. I'm still working on the O Group Boot Camp. So I'm still doing that. I think I'll be filming an episode of that today, which I think is the starting of shooting. So you should check that out. Um, I have Americans and SS and British Para on my to-do list. They are all they're on my shelf waiting to go. But when I say U.S. regular infantry, British Para, and German SS, those are my next three. I'm going to put that off until I get the terrain done. So yeah, so that's that. Oh yeah, also ordered some vehicles. I ordered a ton of vehicles. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 50 vehicles. in, and they should be in. I think he said they're going to be here. He's going to ship them tomorrow, so I'll probably get them next Wednesday. Uh, so uh, they're one-off vehicles. They're like one light tank, one heavy tank, one. Uh, you know, I think I ordered 3 Churchills, one flamethrower Churchill, 2 regular Churchills. Uh, what else did I order? Oh, I ordered some Waco gliders as well. Uh, so that's part of the 50. Two Wacos, I think. I think I ordered them just as a test to see if they come in at the right scale or not. And they're not Horsa gliders, they're Wacos. But if I wanted to do a Pegasus Bridge scenario or any other glider born scenario, I could proxy them in. I don't see any player having a problem with that. Um, but yeah, I need a Pegasus Bridge model. I had one a long time ago in 15 millimeter. I had another one in 28 millimeter. And I sold both of them a long time ago because I didn't think I was ever going to need them. But that 15 millimeter model it seemed like it was very small. Uh, but again, I think it would have been perfect based on the ground scale. I don't know. It's just something I thought about. All right, well, that is the update for my O Group project, and look forward to me continuing the O Group boot camp. And when I do build these extra pieces of terrain, if I can remember, I will film them for you guys. All right, I'll catch you next time.